Hello, my name is Gregory Stanton. I am the president of Genocide Watch, and the ambassador has asked me to give you a talk about the consequences of the denial of the Bangladesh genocide. Because one of the things that I've discovered is that after every genocide, there is a long period of denial. In fact, during the genocide itself, denial goes all the way through the whole process, because those who are perpetrating the genocide deny that they're doing it. In fact, they sometimes even blame the victims. They try to cover up what they're doing. And that process of denial continues on many years after the genocide is over. And it has serious consequences for the victims of genocide and for the rest of the world as well. Not just the victims, because denial harms everyone in the whole international community. It harms the bystanders, it harms the truth tellers, it harms all of the people who know what happened in a genocide. So I'd like to talk to you today about the consequences of denial of the Bangladesh genocide. Denial is actually a continuation of genocide because it is a continuing attempt to destroy the victim group psychologically and culturally, to deny its members even the memory of the murders of their relatives. Denial is used also by the people who perpetrated the genocide because it is frequently a validation of national and ethnic origin myths. And that is how denial is being used by Pakistan today in its denial of its genocide in Bangladesh. In this case, the denial is of the origin myth of the birth of Pakistan, which was conceived by Jinnah and other Muslim at the time of the partition of India to be a homeland for Muslims. The problem was that the homeland encompassed two huge areas that were separated by 1,000 miles. One, of course, which is the current day Pakistan, and then the other is currently Bangladesh. But they were united as one nation under the partition. It was a partition that didn't work from the beginning. And in fact, the Pakistanis in the West dominated the government from the start. In 1971, however, after parliamentary elections in which the Awami League in Bangladesh won the election and would have had a majority in the Pakistani parliament and would have formed the government, the Pakistani military decided they wouldn't tolerate that. They wanted to maintain total control of the whole region, the whole bipartite country of Pakistan. And they didn't want also to give up the exploitation of Bangladesh by Pakistani business. Bangladesh had become a cash cow for Pakistan because of its huge production of jute and other products that Pakistanis used to make profits for Pakistani industry. So when Bangladesh declared its independence in 1971, Pakistanis saw this as a mortal threat to Pakistan. That is one of the reasons why that genocide was generated by the Pakistani military and by why Yahya Khan then ordered his troops to slaughter between 1 and 3 million Bangladeshis in the Bangladesh genocide of 1971. So the origin myth that the Bangladesh genocide attempted to extinguish was the origin myth of Pakistan as a unified nation. As we know, Pakistan never was a unified nation. And when the elections would have made the Bengali Awami League, in fact, hold a majority in the Pakistani parliament. The West Pakistanis would not tolerate it. This kind of justification of origin myths is not unique, of course, to this genocide in Bangladesh. It was also justification for the genocide of Native Americans in North America. The myth even held that most of America was empty territory, that it was terra nullius, as international lawyers call it. In other words, unoccupied, when in fact, of course, it was very occupied by Native Americans. The myth of manifest destiny, which was used in the US to justify conquest of the West by white Americans, white European Americans, was used to justify driving Native Americans off of their lands, putting them in reservations, and also committing genocide against them. This same kind of origin myth is true of the Armenian genocide in Turkey, in which Turkey continues to deny that it conducted genocide against Armenians. And the reason for that is the origin myth of what is called pan-Turanism or pan-Turkism by Turkey. They believe the Turks have a divine right to control all of the Anatolian Plateau, all of their territory that is now Turkey. So they said in this origin myth that meant that Christians, such as the Armenians, the Circassians, and other groups, had no right to be part of Turkey. They're still saying that for the Kurds in Turkey. And that, in other words, shows you how dangerous these origin myths are and how dangerous denial is. The origin myth of Pakistan, as I say, is an origin myth that was used by the INS and by others who planned the Bangladesh genocide to justify that genocide. But you see, it's not just a denial that justifies the acts of the perpetrators for the perpetrators. It also continues the genocide for both the victims and their survivors. Denial continues the trauma of genocide. It transfers the trauma into the future for other generations. And now, psychologists, in fact, have proven that this kind of collective trauma carries on into future generations. They've even done studies in which they've shown that cognitive portions of the human brain are affected by trauma, and that trauma creates an ongoing trauma even in the survivors and in their progeny, in the people who they give birth to. This kind of collective trauma, in other words, is a serious wound that is not healed in a culture that has undergone genocide. Now, every society is made up of families that are bound together by love. But every family member, of course, will eventually die. So how do we deal with death in the context of our families? After all, as my father used to remind me, he was a pastor, he said, "Gregory, the mortality rate is still 100%. And that, of course, is true. All human beings are destined to die. So human beings have had to find ways to confront death and to accept it. There is also a need for honor and for a way to bid farewell to the dead in every family. Funerals are the way that we use to affirm that the dead have departed, but that life will go on. Death doesn't have the last word. That is why also many religions believe that there is a continuation of life after death. The problem with denial is that it denies the mourning. It doesn't permit the continuation of life to triumph over death. It denies that the death occurred. And so that is why denial is such a serious blow to recovery for those who have undergone genocide. The reason genocidists bury victims, in fact, in mass graves or throw their bodies into rivers or the sea is to deny the victim's personhood. It's to deny the death that the perpetrators have caused. Genocidists try to deny the final triumph of life. They are the devils, the propagators of death. That's why recognition of genocide is so important. The survivors need public acknowledgement of their trauma and their grief. Silence tells survivors that they grieve alone. Genocide recognition is the public ritual of collective responsibility. It is the acknowledgement of our common humanity. That is why denial is a continuing genocide against the victims. Recognition reasserts the unifying diversity of our humanity. Denial of genocide is what the Pakistani and the U.S. governments and other governments today are doing to citizens of Bangladesh and Bengalis around the world. Neither the Pakistani nor the U.S. governments nor most other governments should be a party to denial of a historical fact as profound and important as the 1971 genocide of the people of Bangladesh. Elie Wiesel, the great survivor of the Holocaust, the author of Night and many other memorials of the Holocaust, repeatedly called denial a double killing because it strives to kill the memory of the event. Hitler, in fact, famously used denial of the Ottoman Empire's genocide of Armenians to justify his plan to exterminate the Jews. In 1939, Hitler said to his generals, "Who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians?" In other words, denial provides a kind of free, get out of jail free card to those who would commit another genocide, a different genocide, or even another genocide of the same people. Around the world, then, victims of genocide ask first for recognition of the crime committed against them. Recognition of genocide is as essential to healing as closing an open wound. Without such healing, scars harden into hatred that cripples the victim and cries out for revenge. Denial also harms the perpetrators and their successors. Now, there have never been any trials in Pakistan of the generals who perpetrated the Bangladesh genocide. Trials are the best antidote to denial, but they seldom happen. So we must depend instead on education. There were no trials, for instance, of the U.S. Army generals and state governors who ordered the genocide of Native Americans in the U.S. The U.S. Congress has never even apologized. And Brigadier Dyer, who was responsible for the murder of over 1,000 Indian in 1919 in India, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, was never put on trial. And in fact, Rudyard Kipling, the famous poet, even justified Dyer's genocidal orders. Kipling wrote, "He did his duty as he saw it." The Bengali Nobel Prize winning poet Tagore renounced his British knighthood over that massacre. And Britain has never formally apologized for it. After the Ottoman courts-martials of 1918 to 1920, there were no further trials. The killers literally got away with mass murder. With blood on their hands, they returned to their work. Out of that denial grew a Turkish state that denied the existence of all non-Turks within Turkey. Kurds became, quote, mountain Turks. Kurdish schools were closed, and people speaking Kurdish had their tongues cut out. Turkey is still in a war against Kurds. It has even threatened to invade Iraq to punish the Kurds who live there. Studies by genocide scholars prove that the single best predictor of future genocide is denial of a past genocide, coupled with impunity for its perpetrators. Genocide deniers are 3 times more likely to commit another genocide as any other governments. Turkey's still attempting to suppress the self-determination of the Kurdish people. It bombs and invades Kurdish areas in northern Syria and Iraq to this day. Turkish school children are still taught that the Armenian genocide is a myth. Turkish writers who write the truth are prosecuted for insulting Turkishness. Even Orhan Pamuk, who won the Nobel Prize, was actually prosecuted. Publishers like Hrant Dink, who dared to publish the truth about the Armenian genocide, were murdered, and their murderers are celebrated as national heroes. These are the results of racist ultranationalism and fascism. We would not expect the U.S. government to be intimidated by Pakistan, an unreliable ally with a deeply disturbing human rights record, graphically documented in the State Department's International Religious Freedom Report on Pakistan. We would expect the United States to express its moral and intellectual views, not to compromise its principles, but instead, the U.S. has never told the truth about the Bangladesh genocide. The reason is Henry Kissinger knew it was going to happen and, in fact, gave the green light and never stopped it. And the diplomats who complained about it, Archer Blood, the other diplomats in the U.S. consulate in Dhaka, were never given additional diplomatic assignments after they wrote the famous blood telegram that said, "This is genocide. It must be stopped." Denial then also dishonors the truth tellers. A joint congressional resolution recognizing and commemorating the Bangladesh genocide should be passed. It would honor America's extraordinary foreign service officers, including the ones who wrote the blood telegram, who risked their lives and their careers to report on the Bangladesh genocide of 1971. They and thousands of others left voluminous reports about that genocide. Many of them remain classified, but there are now many also in the National Archives that have been declassified, that they document what happened to the Bengali people. They show, without any question, that the Bangladesh genocide was a government-planned systematic destruction of a people by Pakistan. It is what Raphael Lemkin meant precisely when he coined the word genocide. I say here and now that the U.S. should pass such a resolution that pays tribute not only to our diplomats who were in Dhaka in 1971, but also to all of our diplomats who have spoken out against genocide when it has occurred. U.S. Ambassador Henry Morgenthau and the foreign service officers in the Ottoman Empire in 1915. By the way, Henry Morgenthau never got an additional diplomatic assignment either after he protested the Armenian genocide. The American Consul General in Dhaka, Archer Blood, wrote a dissent channel cable to Washington protesting Secretary Kissinger's U.S., quote, tilt toward Pakistan. But Blood was ignored, and he never got another diplomatic assignment. I am saying here, it is time for diplomats to honor the truly honorable among their company. And that includes Henry Morgenthau, Archer Blood, and the others who have told the truth about genocide. Let us today commemorate those who died in the Bangladesh genocide, but also the diplomats who told the truth about it. Let us remember Ambassador Morgenthau's words when he met with Talat Pasha, one of the planners of the Armenian genocide, who asked him, "Why are you so interested in the Armenians anyway? You're a Jew. These people are Christians." And Morgenthau replied, "You don't seem to realize that I am not here as a Jew, but as the American ambassador. I do not appeal to you in the name of any race or religion, but merely as a human being." Thank you.